Welcome back. It's time for business, and I'm joined by Matthew. Hello again, Matthew. Now, Japan Airlines, it's back on the Tokyo stock market after almost 3 years in bankruptcy protection.
Yes, now this was actually the biggest stock market debut of the year since Facebook back in May, and Japan Airlines is back in profit after, as you say, it was declared bankrupt. That was in January 2010. But the company has had to make some deep cuts to get there.
It's a triumphant turnaround. Bankruptcy forced Japan Airlines from the Tokyo Stock Exchange in 2010. 2 years and a government bailout worth €3.4 billion later, the company has shed 1/3 of its staff, scrapped unprofitable routes and replaced ageing aircraft. The dramatic restructuring saw the carrier top airline industry profits in the last financial year, bringing in a pre-tax figure of €1.8 billion. That compares to a loss of €6.1 billion 3 years previously. If the share offer is fully subscribed, it could see the company's value surpass that of its rival, All Nippon Airlines. ANA has claimed that the tax breaks and government support given to Japan Airlines were unfair and wants steps to be taken to ensure the carrier doesn't enjoy an undue advantage as a result. Many investors are expected to be drawn in by flight discount vouchers that come with shares bought. But analysts are warning that the industry remains precarious and that Japan Airlines could be facing a tough landing.
Well, shares in Japan Airlines are up 1% today. And earlier I spoke to our Tokyo correspondent, Michael Penn. He said that Japan Airlines faces ever tougher competition.
Part of that competition is going to come from the larger and more established airlines like Singapore Airlines or the Emirates, but maybe even the more dangerous competition will come from the budget airlines. And during this time when JAL has been restructuring, a lot of the budget airlines have worked into the market and taken over a lot of lines. And with everybody basically on a smaller budget these days, it means that the budget airlines have a very strong position in the market.
And how are the market's looking today, Matthew?
Well, we're staying in Japan actually for the markets as well, because the Bank of Japan has announced that it's boosting its asset purchase program by €100 billion. Now, what that means is it's effectively stimulating the economy. And of course, as we know, markets like that. We can take a look at what is happening in Europe, and they're all opening slightly up this morning. The FTSE up by about 0.2% and the CAC 40 by 0.5%. That's good news. And in Asia as well, markets also boosted by that news. Nikkei was up for 2% at one point, but it closed the day more like 1%. Now, markets are also still concerned about Spain. Of course, investors keen to see whether it's going to request a full bailout, but the country's leaders are being tight-lipped about it. But we saw in that bond price that we often look at that investors are losing a bit of patience. It started ticking up again yesterday. There'll be a big test on Thursday when the country sells between €7 and €9 billion of longer-term bonds.
We're going to stay with the Eurozone. France starts the process of approving new European fiscal rules.
Yes, that's right. Now, this budget pact, this fiscal compact, was actually negotiated by President François Hollande's predecessor, Nicolas Sarkozy. Now, these are the rules that aim to control these wayward Eurozone nations that are spending too much money effectively. Well, France is the latest country to start this process of ratification.
A budget treaty signed by Nicolas Sarkozy in March that François Hollande wants to push through the French Parliament. A cornerstone of the budget discipline pact is the so-called Golden Rule. The structural deficit of a country cannot exceed 0.5% of the GDP, or in France's case, it can't exceed €10 billion. In 2011, for example, the debt of the total deficit had reached €74 billion. Countries that don't respect the treaty could be sued and fined by the EU. The fines cannot exceed 0.1% of the country's GDP. In France's case, that could equal €2 billion. To make sure France is sticking to its budget, a new independent organization will be created, the High Council for Public Finances. It'll be made up of 4 members of the Council of Auditors and 4 parliamentary leaders. Expected to be politically independent, the council will have power. They, rather than the government, will decide France's provisions for growth, as well as increases and decreases in public funding.
Well, 12 countries are needed to ratify the fiscal compact before it goes into effect. Let's take a look at who's done it so far. And we can see that it's mostly those struggling southern European nations that are already getting bailouts who have ratified. Those are the countries in yellow that have ratified. That orange chunk in the middle, those are countries that have now started the process. And the UK there and the Czech Republic in red, they didn't want to play ball and are not taking part in it at all. Well, now let's get some of the day's company news. And Yahoo is giving shareholders most of the proceeds from a big sale. The internet company has sold half its shares in Chinese e-commerce company Alibaba. $3 billion will go to shareholders. The remaining $1.3 billion will be used for acquisitions and hiring new talent.
Heineken is closer to taking over the makers of Tiger beer. The Dutch beer giant has now got the backing of its former rival in the battle for Asian brewer APB. Heineken and Thai Beverage have declared a truce. Heineken won't bid for another company, Fraser and Neave, which Thai Beverage wants to take over.
And political fallout from changes to the retail industry in India. Under the new rules, large foreign retailers like Walmart and Tesco will be able to invest in the country. The price of diesel is also going up. Well, the Trinamool Congress Party is resigning from the coalition, saying those measures will hurt the poor.
And now proof that a football club's performance on the pitch has consequences and impact on its financial results.
Yes, now we're talking about Manchester United here. They announced their most recent results, which were down 3% in the full year to $520 million. Now that followed early elimination, I'm sure you are following this, Claire, from the Champions League. That hits earnings from TV and it also hurts ticket sales. Now we can take a look at their share price because the club floated in New York last month at $14 and you can see what's happened to it. And they fell again another 3% after those results.
Now, 11 more billionaires have agreed to hand over large chunks of their fortunes.
Yeah, now this is the billionaires club of generous billionaires, really. There are 92 of them now, and this was started by Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, two of the richest men in the world. The idea is that they give away half of their fortunes to breathe new life into philanthropy in the US, really. That was part of it. So 11 new billionaires have now said they're signing up. I can tell you a few of them. They include Reed Hastings. He's the chief executive of Netflix, the movie rental business, and 83-year-old Gordon Moore as well. He's the head of Intel, the chip maker. This club also includes others that you're bound to have heard of. Ted Turner, the CNN founder, the mayor of New York, Michael Bloomberg, as well, of course, as well as Buffett and Gates themselves putting their money where their mouth is, I suppose.
That's a great initiative. All right, thank you very much, Matthew, for that look at the day's business news. And thank you for watching. Don't forget you can go to our website. That's France24.com. You'll find plenty of reports there in English, French and Arabic. Do stay tuned, though, to France 24. You'll have all the latest headlines in just a few minutes' time with Stuart Norval.